Hello everyone, we are going to be starting with 1b3 part 1 against we'll be looking at 1b3 of black's best reply according to me is 1e5. So first of all it takes off the center which white is not taking off in this opening, but he plays for a more positional part by bringing his position bishop to b2, and then we break the center after e3 d4 or d3 e4 or even f4. So we give him the center for the time being, and we attack the pawn with bishop b2. And in this position he has many options to defend the pawn, and he has d6, knight c6, f6, queen e7, but the most common things are knight c6 and d6. And yeah, so we play bishop b2 attacking the pawn. Then he plays knight c6. Let's look at the knight c6 first. Knight c6 is a good move which defends the e5 pawn and controls the central square also. And in the main plan for this opening here for white is that he plays e3 and he just attacks this knight like this via b5, take the knight and attack the e5 pawn and spoil the structure and play for a well end game. And if the position opens up, you can just play for the king side attack also. Okay, then he plays d5. Why not take the center if white's not taking it? So we play anyway, it doesn't matter for us. We just play bishop b5 attacking the c6 knight, and we are threatening the e5 pawn also. And it's a very good bishop because it's pressurizing the center, and he may play many moves, but bishop d6 makes a lot of sense and it's a most natural move. But it undefends the g7 pawn, and we take the advantage of it and play f4. You may wonder that he may just take. If I take, he may play queen h4, then here, and then take, and it's a bad position. But actually, it's not a bad position at all because we have the scheme of queen e1, which pins the pawn to the king, and first of all, it removes the threat of mate, which black is threatening. And be careful that if you take this, there is a mate. So first queen e1, he goes queen e4 check, then just block it, knight f3. Then next move, whatever he plays, bishop d7, just take. Then the rook is hanging and you just a piece up. So let's go back. Yeah, we play f4, play queen e7 defending the pawn, knight f3, and then we are threatening the pawn again. So he plays f6, and here the critical move, knight c3. It's a tricky move, and it actually attacks the pawn, and it doesn't defend with knight e7, knight f6. It's taken by the queen and pawn, and the only thing is bishop e6. And here we play most challenging one for black, that is e4. Here he's left with many options: d4, push, ef4, then just ignoring it. We are going to be looking at d into e4 first. So d into e4, knight into e4, castle, sorry, e into f4, and then castle. And by far the best move for him is long castle, but here we take advantage of it. Bishop c6, bc6, and in this position you have a very good position because you have well placed knights, and his bishop is like for good for well-being, but it's not doing anything. So, but you have queen e2, then rook d1. Maybe these things attacks. You can do rook lift in the middle game, and you have well bishop according when you compare it to this, and you have well knights compared to this, and you have well play. So you can play like this. For example, I could show you some things. Knight d4, he defends it, take, take, take. He may think that he's attacking this and this, but we leave it. We play rook e4. It's a kind of sacrifice, but it's doing a lot of things. For example, if he does queen into d2, queen into d2, rook into d2, rook e1, then rook into c2, then bishop d4. The main idea was of rook e4 is that you take the last rank and you just pin his knight, then you bring another rook, then you attack this knight and then take the knight. If he removes his rook from the h file, you take the knight and then just pressurizing this last rank, just solidifying, and then you go h3. He goes to defend the rook, but it doesn't work because now knight h6 leaves the rook undefended, and knight e7 it's a free knight. So he will raise f5 so that he can play knight f6, but it's already too late. With he can play rook d5, but just stay on the e file, f5, rook f8, and there's nothing. And if you play something like g5, okay, you take straight off, and then it's just over. So let's go back queen into d2, and yeah, after queen d6, we went rook e4 that for that idea. You can even go for like queen f1, which is good. Queen into d2, you bring another rook. See his knight that it can't come out to e7 still, and he has to go to h6. So he goes knight h6, and now we can play bishop c1. That if you take the c2 pawn, which defends the key square for his king safety. Now we go rook b full check. He goes back. So we enter with the queen, and then check block. Then just piece up. And after queen h6, queen a6, we are threatening two mates. One is here, sorry, here, and if he goes here, example with here, we can just go here, just threatening mate, and there's no way I guess because we stay rook c4 and it's just crushing. Then let's go to next variation. f4, queen e7, knight f3, f6, knight c3, e4. Here he may go for the best defense, e4. Then knight d5, bishop into d5, then e into d5, pawn into king f2, and you will notice that his king is still in the center and his piece is attacked still, and he can't remove it, so he goes a6, the best reply, attacking our bishop. We go rook e1, pinning the queen. He goes bishop e5. We take, take, take. He goes rook d8, the best reply. We take the bishop. Pawn takes, queen h5, g6, blocking it. Take the pawn, queen into, rook into. Then king f7, bring another rook, goes there. And like in this position, his pawns all are like scattered, and his rook is defending awkwardly, and his knight is still not developed, rook is not developed, and our rooks are on a f5, king is already activated with a good pawn structure, and so it's a good continuation. If bishop d4 here, and then rook e4, and just he's just losing the piece. So let's go to the next variation. f4, queen e7, knight f3, f6, knight c3, bishop e6, e4, he goes d4, knight d5, he goes queen f7 instead of taking on d5. We just castle, we just ignore that pawn if it because we get a lot of activity into f4 attacking the e6 bishop, intermezzo, bishop e4, and then e to d6, castle, we go knight g5, then we take, we have double bishop advantage, take, take, and we take bishop into c6, queen into c6, and now we get a pawn up by how just like double attack, queen g4, attacking e7, b7, g7. Yeah, and he can go queen here, but we can just play here rook f4 and just winning this pawn back. He takes attacking this and this again simultaneously, and we win a pawn. So queen c6, g4, queen d7, bishop d4, and you're just a pawn up. And to mention, queen into c2 is not a move because rook c1 pins it to king, and so yeah. And another variation where he goes e4, queen d7, queen d7, we just take, attacking the bishop, and with the pawn it allows us to jump with our knight g5 in the future and long, so short castle and attack very easily. So bishop e5, knight into, pawn into, then check, blocks, then we go queen g5, attacking the g7 pawn and the e5 pawn. He takes, we take, he takes, take bishop c6, queen c6, queen into e5, knight e7, short castle, queen d6, take, and we have a lot of activity over here. And then next variation, b3, e5, bishop b2, knight c6, e3, d5, bishop b5, bishop d6, f4, putting eye on here, queen e7, defending it, knight f3, attacking it more, f6, knight c3, attacking the d5 pawn, bishop e6, defending it, e4, pressurizing the center, and d4, and knight d5, queen d8. It's a bad move because takes, knight takes, pawn takes, and then queen h5 check. And to mention that if you bishop f7, then queen into e5 is just winning a pawn, and we are winning a d7 pawn also. And so bishop f7 not a move. King d7, queen into e5 still, and castle, and just winning. For example, king c8, knight f4, here, rook g8, just knight into e6, takes, and this position, this bishop into d4, and you're simply just 3 pawns up. So you're winning. Yeah, thank you guys for this wonderful support that you're watching this video. And the main idea of going for this opening is that first of all, it's a rare opening, and the positions what you enter into is surprising to your opponent and as well as you, and you can play positional to a lot of extent in this opening, so that you're not scared of any like black's theory against your some openings. In this opening, you're clear a lot of what you're playing and what you want to enter into. So thank you guys.